Hello guys, and welcome to a soaking wet Shanghai International Circuit for my debut race in the AOR F3 League, which is one out of 5 AOR Xbox leagues currently running on F1 2014, and the only league currently reserved for wheel drivers only as a result of the unfortunate situation of severe inequality between wheels and pads on this game. And if you're wondering why I'm not currently racing in the top F1 league, which I've done for the last couple of years, then go back and watch the previous video uploaded and read the description as well, which should give you the explanation you need. But here we are then, out on track on this very wet track at the moment in China for my first ever quali lap in the F3 league. And I was a little bit on the back foot going into this race for two reasons. Firstly, the fact that I'm actually joining this league 4 races into the season, so I will be starting with a bit of a disadvantage in terms of the championship, with obviously the other drivers having scored some points already. And secondly, because of the fact that I had never done a wet lap on this game before I did this race. And when you are driving with a wheel in the wet on this game, it is extremely difficult. The lack of traction just means that you have to be so careful on the throttle input, so you can get wheel spin like from first up to, well, I never use first in this game, but from second gear up to 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th at times if you're turning and accelerating at the same time. And you can see that I'm going pretty slow at the moment, kind of just trying to get a feel for the circuit in the wet, getting a bit of oversteer there, as you can see. A very tricky corner that in the wet especially, and the corners coming up now also very tricky. You can see I'm 1.6 seconds down on the current pole sitter at the moment, which is Pro Racing 69, who is also the leader of the championship, having won the previous 2 races, and has kind of shown himself as the pace setter in F3 at the moment, as I'm going sideways, drifting around this long right-hander, which is hard enough in the dry, but extremely hard in the wet. And Pro Racing there clearly happy with his lap time, retiring very early in the session. And for me, I'm not really sure what to expect from this race, kind of going into it a bit blindfolded considering it's wet and everything. Not really expecting to be up there at the front straight away, but hoping to be in the pack somewhere. And oh no, we've actually lost connection to the session, which has completely thrown qualifying out of the window, leaving me unable to set a lap time, and I'm actually going to start this race now from down in 13th place, which of course is last out of the attending drivers for this race. And for the record, the reason I'm listed as a reserve at the results at the moment is because this league already had 16 drivers at the time I moved down, which means I'm not currently part of a team in the championship until someone drops out for me to take their spot. But any points I score still count towards a drivers' championship, of course. So, F1 Turtle, Moon and Cragglesteed, the top 3 on the starting grid, with the championship leader Pro Racing starting from 4th. And for me, of course, far from an ideal place to start, down in last. And because I missed basically all of qualifying as well, I'm going into this full wet race with next to no wet driving experience under my belt. All I know is that it's going to be extremely tricky, and it's going to have to be a bit of a recovery drive from me here, as we're now revving out for the 5 lights, and away we go for this Chinese Grand Prix. Let's see if we can get a good launch off the line. Clearly better than Gymnast ahead, who seems to be struggling, been passed by both me and Matthew G, as I'm struggling a bit myself as well. Now ending up on the outside, braking later than Matthew, but Gymnast has bounced back from his poor start, and now up the inside, as I've got Rug just ahead of me now, kind of making me unable to hold it around the outside of Gymnast. But it looks like we'll get through the first couple of corners without incident at the moment. Still side by side with Gymnast now, coming out of turn 2, very tricky acceleration zone, as Disco Stu and Rug has had a bit of a contact there. Rug ended up on the grass, and we've moved ahead of him up to 11th, as Gymnast has moved past Stu. Let's see if we can follow him. No, Stu breaks really late there, perhaps trying an outside move on Gymnast, but he gets bogged down the exit with Gymnast kind of blocking his line a little bit. We've taken it much tighter than both of them, and now again side by side with Gymnast, coming into this the left-right section with loads of understeer with the wet weather, and we're unable to hold it around the outside of Gymnast there. But up to 10th then, 3 places gained already after half a lap. Watching the field make his way through this very tricky section here. Gymnast taking a bit of curb, but doesn't seem to get unsettled by it. Stu pressuring a bit from behind as I get oversteer, coming out of the corner. A very scary moment, but we managed to hold it nicely. Let's see if we can spot a braking point now between the 150 meter board, hitting the apex as well for turn 11. Trying to follow Gymnast closely here, maybe to get a run on this straight. Gotta just keep it as stable as possible around this corner, which you're accelerating and turning at the same time, which in the wet is so hard, as I mentioned before. Looks like we lost a little bit of ground on Gymnast coming out there, but at the same time we gained on the cars behind. And look at the visibility here, you can only see the red lights flashing basically with all the spray that's being kicked up. But we seem to have more straight line speed than Gymnast, who now defends the inside line. We brake later than him, and once again we're side by side with Gymnast going through a corner, but he's on the inside. Oh god, and there's a Torosso. There's DC Magic who's spun, or been spun, off the track there. But I managed to get a good exit out of the hairpin, and now I've got the inside line on Gymnast for the last corner of the first lap. Getting very close to the gearbox of F1 Turtle actually, so the pole sitter has dropped way down the field, and now the fourth suspect is going slow on the straight after running wide on the last corner. So we're actually up to 7th place now, starting the second lap of the race. F1 Turtle, who was in 7th a moment ago, has now moved himself back past Big C. Oh, as they're going side by side just ahead of me. As the Gymnast has followed me through a bit, so he's now in 8th behind. Just taking it easy through this corner here, very tricky. Big C goes a bit wide, but now it's about nailing the exit. Oh, he's very loose. Oversteer is not gonna help our speed onto this straight, and it looks like we're too far back from Big C to challenge him going into turn 6, I believe. But we braked quite early, still missing the apex though, as we got Gymnast still challenging us on the inside, and the curb tries its best there to unsettle the car. But a decent start to the race, you have to say. Up 6 places from our starting position, but still in a big train of cars, so anything could happen going forward here. As you know, making a skip forward to the end of the back straight later in the lap, and it looks like we're closing in on Big C slightly. He moves very far out to the right to avoid the spray. Oh, have we braked a bit late? We've tapped F1 Turtle wide. By mistake, forced him onto the runoff area, and now he's on the curb. Oh god, no, we spun off the track as well. And I'm afraid I'm probably gonna have to take the blame for that one. Turtle not particularly happy in the chat either, which I can understand. So in fairness to him, and to make sure I don't get a potential penalty after the race, I'm slowing down to wait for him. Like the rules of the league says that you should do if you accidentally cause a collision. Letting Turtle retake that position, and we had a car run into the back of us or down the straight there. I think that was DC Magic, who must have not seen that we were going slow, which I'm sorry about, of course, but I feel like that wasn't really my fault. But it's turned into a bit of a disaster then, after a good start to the race, and we've dropped back to P11 due to that incident, which is going to make it much harder, but we just have to make the best of it now, try to bounce back once again. And the first challenge on the way to do that is getting past F1 Turtle, hopefully cleanly this time. Sitting in the middle of his spray, coming down the big straight here. We look to have better straight line speed though. He goes to the inside, but it does leave a bit of a gap, so we're gonna move to the inside instead. Easy on the brakes, hitting the braking point this time, and the apex. Turtle looking to try a bit of a cutback as we get a bit out of shape on the exit, but controlling the traction nicely, and we see it into... Oh god, as I say that, we look backwards and almost lose control. Kids never look backwards when you're in the traction zone in the wet weather. But now on lap 5 we got the Ferrari of 4 suspect running wide through turn 7, almost spinning into us, coming back onto the track. But we managed to avoid him, and now look to be gaining another position. Yeah, suspect drops back and is now getting passed by Turtle as well. So back up to 9th and halfway through lap 5, but still struggling a lot with traction on that particular corner. And now we're actually under pressure from Turtle again, who has the inside line coming into this corner, where we try to brake late, leaving him room on the inside to then get the head into this corner here. And now it's all about nailing the traction zone, keeping it smooth and steady on the throttle, almost doing it. Still a bit of sideways moment there, but Turtle seemed to be struggling a lot more. So we're now properly up to 9th place in the race. And now at the start of lap 8, quite interesting that we got a car in the pit lane already, and that is Joker running in one of the Saubers. And then on the next lap as well, his teammate Kraggles went in as well, which I was a bit surprised about, because the default strategy that the game told me was to do a one-stopper on these wet tires with 14 laps on each stint. But clearly the Sauber's deciding to do a two-stopper at least, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. It might well turn out well for them, because even in the wet the tires are wearing quite badly. As now Rug in the Marussia head goes into the pits as well, so we've temporarily moved up to 6th place, and now up to 5th on lap 13 as another car is pitted as well. So varying strategies going on here really. I'm trying though to hold it out for one stop, but we've already got one of the two stoppers, Kraggles, just behind us again. And at this point he is on much fresher tires, and I don't help myself by running wide out of turn 2, allowing Kraggles to cut underneath, and with his better tires he should be able to get me in the traction zone here quite easily. But I'm staying side by side with him into the braking zone of this hairpin. Kraggles though braking a lot later, cutting in front of us and with ease outpowering us on the exit here. You can see on the tire indicator that the tires are getting quite orange on the rears especially, so really struggling with the grip at this stage of the race. Now at the end of lap 13, and Joker, the other Sauber, is now just behind us as well. And you can see from the arrows there how much he's gaining in the traction zone. But we're on the inside, so we'll have to make a move around the outside here into the final corner, trying to stick with him, getting very close to his side pod, which is very scary on this game, given the side pod glitch, the possibilities for that to happen. But I'm still staying side by side with him as there's further cars in the pits now. But I'm staying out for one more lap. Joker though got the inside line for turn 1, and there's not really too much point in me fighting him hard at this stage. I have more than enough with just fighting with my own car on these tires at the moment. And now trying to get to the end of this lap 14 without any major spins and other incidents. So skipping to the end of the lap now, and you can see the distance between me and Joker just after one lap of him passing me. That's the difference between fresh tires and worn tires on these heavy wet compound. 4th place coming into the pits, but we're now gonna drop way down the field again as all the cars are streaming past on the track to the left. Let's hope that the McLaren boys can give me a nice fast pit stop here on with another set of the wets to take me to the end of the race. 3.7 seconds, not perfect stop, but not too bad either. And it will be so nice to get out there with fresh tires after struggling for quite a few laps on struggling with grip on the worn tires. And we are back out in 10th place, but with quite a big gap up to the cars ahead. So we skip on to lap 17, the end of lap 17, and we closed up a bit to the group ahead with Rug just ahead of us now. And again, we got Joker into the pits, so he's definitely doing a two-stopper now. That is the second time he's been in the pits, as I was struggling a bit to see the apex there coming into the corner, almost turning in too hard onto the grass. And there's 2 further cars not too far ahead. That is a Caterham, that must be Disco Stew, and I think that's F1 Turtle as well, who is not far ahead. So 6th place is within reach at the moment, although you gotta expect Joker behind to catch up as well on his tire advantage. But let's see now if we can challenge this group, getting a bit close to Ruggy towards the braking zone here, but not really close enough to do a dive bomb, and we actually braked a bit too late and had to go wide in order to not hit Rug in the back. That is of course the last thing I want, hitting someone in the back after what happened in lap 2. But we've now skipped further on in the lap, and the group is getting very close now, coming onto the back straight. Rug is getting sideways, we're getting sideways! Basically a synchronized drift there. But let's see if we can get a run on the straight here now. We have been having greater straight line speed than quite a few of the other cars. Obviously I'm running quite low wing compared to what is probably smart given the conditions, but thanks to it we are easily breezing past Rug here way before entering the braking zone. Still defending the inside line though, just in case. Stu has now run wide onto the AstroTurf, so we might gain another position. But oh, there's been a tap in the side. I'm pretty sure that was Stu spinning off that curb on the outside. Rug and Joker both seem to have gotten caught out by it as well. Stu backs off, clearly feeling a bit at fault for that. And that was not too pleasant, but we have gained a position by it, of course. But Turtle now ahead has a big gap again, 3.1 seconds in fact. But he had apparently been out quite long on his current set of tires compared to what I have, and I was able to close that gap in just one lap. So we're now following Turtle around turn 1 at the start of lap 20, trying to pressure him either into a mistake or to get a run out of this corner here. And you can see Turtle is very much struggling on the traction, so am I a little bit. But we managed to get alongside out of the corner, but Turtle's still hanging in there, will have the inside for the next corner as we're getting towards the braking zone, trying to brake quite late to hang it around the outside here, leaving him enough room, but we've been a little bit squeezed onto the curb there, so we had to back out of it. Quite aggressive but fair defending from Turtle. And Joker on his even fresher tires has just taken full advantage of that, come out of nowhere and outpowered us in the traction zone, and now he's challenging Turtle straight away. It looked like there was slight contact between the two, but they've gotten away with it, and the whole group is just really bunching up now. Stu has joined the action behind as well, and no doubt Joker will be trying to make a move on Turtle. Another sideways moment for us. Joker looks to be getting close, we can barely see the red lights at the moment. So yeah, Joker goes up the inside into turn 11 to take 6th place, and I expect him to be driving off into the distance now. Being on the two-stopper of course means that he has fresher tires at this point, and we're getting quite close to Turtle on the exit there, but getting very close to the curb, has to back off slightly. But early in the race we did drag past Turtle down this straight and turning it up the rich mix as well now, so we should be a pretty straightforward move now down the straight on the inside line. Turtle's car slowly dropping further back, so we just have to keep it together in the braking zone now, down to standard. Do not want to be in rich in this traction zone coming out here. Hitting the apex almost a little bit wide, but making the move stick for 7th place in this race. And looking at the minimap, there is not too many cars ahead, it's only really Joker. So I mean, it'll be a bit of a miracle given the tyre situation if we can hang on to Joker now. but we'll try our best, of course. Putting it up to Rich, do not want to lose too much touch with Joker, but really nothing much happened. There was no chance for me to keep up with Joker towards the end of the race, although on lap 27 I did get a purple sector 1 for some reason and put a personal best lap of 51.8, but Joker did a 151.4 for the fastest lap of the race, which just underlines the pace he had towards the end of the race to pull away from me. But in the end, Pro Racing won the race, ended up dominating it in the end, and I had to settle for 7th place in my debut race in F3 after starting from the back of the grid after disconnecting in qualifying. Big Z ended up in 2nd, 20 seconds behind Pro Racing in the end. Kraggles on his 2-stopper got to 3rd, so that worked out quite well for him. And Moon in 5th, and Gymnast, who we were battling a bit with at the start of the race, actually in 5th. So really, if we hadn't had that incident on lap 2, I think 5th would have been a possibility here. So quite mixed emotions really after this race. Not the best debut race that I would have wanted in F3, but a decent recovery drive after starting from the back, and also having my first experience in the wet weather as well. So for my first appearance on the F3 Championship, I go up to 13th place with 6 points. But you can see at the top, 75 points, Pro Racing quite a distance ahead. After now having won 3 races in a row, he did not finish the first race in Australia, but he's looking like the man to beat. Joker and Kraggles up there with more than 50 points as well, and then there's quite a few people very close in the middle. As for the constructors, not too relevant for me at the moment, considering I'm not actually in a team, but from the next race onwards I will be, so make sure you watch that when that comes out. That is of course round 5 at Spain, which should be an interesting race, and I'll be aiming to do better than 7th place there. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you again very soon. Goodbye.